for me.
Yeah, I will. I will.
Okay.
I will. I will. So why don't we take a real quick break before our last segment, and we're going to be talking about soy in our last segment. So
this is
we'll be back in a minute.
okay. Okie dokie. All right, so our soup is still cooking up. Just give it a taste test. Delicious. And then I think we're ready to go. Yeah. So one of the okay, so we have this this soy class coming up at the shop, and it's sold out immediately, which tells me that everyone wants to know about soy and tofu, and really it's a tofu class, but it's also just a soy information class. And then I had a woman call me and she said, you know, my girlfriend who is also coming to the class, she paid for her to come. She doesn't know if she could still come because she was just diagnosed with breast cancer, and her doctor wants her to stay clear of soy, which kind of broke my heart because I know that that's wrong in all of my reading, but I want you to break it down and let me know. Okay, there's two things: why soy does not cause breast cancer,
right.
And we hear this all the time.
Right.
Will it cause man boobs?
No, that's right. And you know the man boobs, this kind of mythology is part of what I call bro science. It's right up there with the protein, right? And you hear it all the time, right? You go to the gym and you hear guys talking. You know, my girlfriend wants to go vegan, wants to feed me tofu, and you know, his buddy's like, no way I'm doing that. You know, I don't want to get man boobs. And just to set it straight right now, tofu does not cause man boobs. And we'll talk and it doesn't cause breast cancer. And we'll talk in a minute about what really causes man boobs. But so there's a lot of evidence around tofu or soy in general and breast cancer. So first of all, if you look at population data, you know, what country in the world has the highest rates of breast cancer in the world? Well, we live here, right?
Yeah.
Who has the lowest rates? What turns out is Japan and the parts of China with the highest soy consumption. And in fact, as research suggests that high soy consumption lowers your risk for breast cancer by about 30%. There's also evidence that soy consumption reduces the risk of recurrence for breast cancer if you've already had it. And now we know that estrogen is a risk factor for breast cancer, right? For example, women who start their periods at a very young age, right? So they're exposed to estrogen for much longer over their lifespan. Women who never have children, so they never take a break from estrogen. Some of the estrogen-like compounds that you see in things like dairy and plastic bottles and things like that. We do know those are risk factors for breast cancer. And so the idea is that the concern is soy and some other plants, but soy in particular has what are called phytoestrogens. So phyto means plant. So these plant-based estrogen-like compounds. And so the concern's always been, well, if I take all this extra phytoestrogen, it's going to act just like estrogen and increase my risk. But it turns out that the reason that people think that soy is protective against breast cancer is these phytoestrogens weakly bind to the estrogen receptor, and they actually block the effect of estrogen, right? So so estrogen can't bind to the breast cell and stimulate its growth because these phytoestrogens are in the way.
Are blocking. So the
Exactly.
plants are blocking
The
real estrogen.
That's exactly right.
The extra estrogen that we might be making
That's exactly right.
to create breast cancer.
That's exactly right. And so it does make a difference where the soy comes from.
Okay.
You really want to eat soy as close to the ground as it was grown, right? So when you think about whole bean preparations of soy, right? You've got edamame and tempeh is a fermented whole bean form of soy. And then you've got soy milk, and then you've got tofu. And a lot of people, well, tofu isn't that highly processed. It's really not, because all tofu is you take soy milk and you curdle it, and you scrape the curds off, and you press it in a block, and that's tofu, right?
Yeah. So from bean to block, it's like three steps.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And research suggests about 2 to 4 servings a day of soy. Now, there are most of the soy in the Western diet isn't from tofu and tempeh and edamame. It's from highly processed things like textured vegetable protein, which you see a lot in vegan burgers, for example.
Yeah.
Soy protein isolate, which you see in the big tubs of protein that the bodybuilders are used. Yeah, exactly. Powders. Soy lecithins, which is used in a lot of processed foods. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it turns out there's actually 2 estrogen receptors in the breast cell, and these highly processed soy products look like they activate the other receptor, which may increase your risk. And I think that's where some of this confusion came from, because some of the early studies looked at total soy consumption, not at the source of soy. And when they started to break it down and look at where the soy was coming from, that's when they found that these less processed sources of soy have these health benefits. And there's a lot of other benefits, actually. Soy is high in fiber. Soy, it can improve your bone health, right?
Okay, but why? That's important.
Because again, it weakly activates that estrogen receptor. So postmenopausal estrogen is protective for bones, and so when we weakly stimulate that estrogen receptor, it seems like it helps maintain bone health. The other reason is it's probably the best source of calcium in our diet. So women who are concerned, women need about 800 milligrams of calcium a day, and after menopause, they need maybe 1,000, maybe a little bit more. So as I mentioned earlier, the way tofu is made is you take soy milk and you curdle it, right? And historically, the curdling agent was gypsum, which is calcium silicate. So still today, the way they make tofu, they use a calcium-based a compound to coagulate, if you will, to make the tofu. Is some of that calcium stays in solution. So a cup of tofu has about twice as much calcium as a cup of milk, actually. And again, it's also been shown to help lower cholesterol So there's a lot of other health benefits of soy that go beyond protecting women from breast cancer. Right?
So learn to cook the tofu.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Now,
one of my favorite snacks is edamame.
yeah, no, I love it. I put it in salads and stir fries
Yeah.
and on and on. Now let's talk about man boobs, right?
Yeah.
So what really causes man boobs, right? Well, so it turns out that obesity is the biggest driver of man boobs. The clinical term is called gynecomastia. It just means enlarged breast tissue. We got to keep the field exclusive in medicine by using big words to describe simple things.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other causes, things like some specific hormone disorders. There's certain medications which can cause it. But the biggest driver in the modern world is obesity. And the reason is, we used to think that adipose tissue was just a storage vessel for fat. And but it turns out adipose tissue is highly, highly metabolically active. And it has an enzyme called aromatase. And aromatase's job is it takes testosterone and converts it to estrogen. So the more adipose tissue you have, the more of your testosterone that you're turning into estrogen. So it is estrogen that's causing the man boobs, but it's not from the soy. It's from obesity, which is also, by the way, why obese men oftentimes have issues with erectile dysfunction, because their testosterone levels drop, right?
Oh, yes.
Right. And so by losing weight, going on a whole food plant-based diet, losing weight, not only do the man boobs go away, but your testosterones come back up. I was happy.
That is crazy that testosterone can convert to estrogen.
That's right. Well, in fact, it's one of the reasons that it's felt that obesity is probably one of the biggest risk factors for breast cancer in women today, because women also make small amounts of testosterone. Now, not as much as men,
right,
but that testosterone is getting converted to estrogen by the same enzyme. And so women who are obese have much higher levels of estrogen because they're converting some of their normal testosterone into estrogen. So that's why obesity is one of the biggest drivers of not only breast cancer risk, but also gynecomastia.
So extra fat on the body, like too much fat,
That's
right?
That's right.
Really can be the root cause of
A lot of things.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including it's a risk factor for man boobs and for breast cancer.
Right. Oh, well, happy times.
Yeah. Well, the happy times are we're going to show you how to prevent breast cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
So, and I'll tell you what, I've been on this plant-based diet since 2008, and it took me a long time to feel comfortable with tofu.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't grow up with it.
Right.
And then every time I ever saw it, like in a restaurant menu or watching somebody else eat it or on a TV show, I just thought it was the weirdest thing ever.
Well, especially when you open it up, and you take a little bite and you're like, oh,
it's gross.
This is like this
gross.
cardboard. There's no flavor, right?
Well, there's like zero flavor.
Right.
So let's just get to it. This is just a Trader Joe's. This is a super firm block of tofu. Feel that? That is real heavy.
Don't hit me with that.
Yeah, I know. And just by the way, there are two different types of tofu. So there's this regular type of tofu, and then there's also a silken tofu.
Right.
And both with regular and silken, there is a soft, medium, firm, sometimes extra firm, right? And with the silken tofu, I like to use that in, maybe I'll put it in a smoothie. I'll make a dip out of it.
Right.
Those are the softer tofus. But
Mousse, you could do like a dessert mousse, right?
Well, so I would, with an ultra firm or a very firm silken tofu, I would use that. Yes.
Yeah, but the silken
mousse.
tofu in general, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but today we're using regular tofu, and this is the ultra firm because I want it to stand up. We're going to cube it, and I don't want it to mash down.
Right.
So I'm going to open this up over a bowl. Usually I just do this over the sink. There's very little water in this, in these vacuum packed extra firm tofus. So we're going to just cut this open.
So if there's more, some of the, if it's less firm and there's more water, do you use a tofu press, or how do you press the water out?
I'll tell you what, I just bought my first tofu press a year ago. I don't use it a whole lot. I use it if I am freezing my tofu and then draining it, I'll do it then, but this is just a regular, we did not freeze this.
Right.
So what I will do is just grab a kitchen towel, a clean kitchen towel, paper towels, whatever you have, and wrap it. And then just give it kind of a gentle but firm squeeze, because again, we want to keep those cubes intact. Okay, so this is real easy. So now you have a pretty dried out cube, and I'm just going to cut this into
Bite-sized pieces.
bite-sized pieces. You can skewer these up. Doesn't matter. You could you could probably just do little steaks, little triangles.
Slabs, if you will.
Slabs. That's the word I was looking for. Stuck. All right. So cube these up to bite-ish sizes and set them aside. I'm going to cut you. And we're going to now create a marinade. And whenever I marinate anything, whether it's vegetables, tofu, anything, I always use a resealable plastic bag. And I'll show you why in just a second. The marinade can be anything you want. I mean, today, it could just be barbecue sauce if you wanted. But we're going to use some coconut aminos, or you can use soy sauce, shoyu, tamari, whatever. But a savory.
So tell us a little about coconut aminos. How does that compare to, say, soy sauce?
So coconut aminos is a new-ish on the market. It's coconut based, and it's going to be a lot lower in sodium than a soy sauce.
And by the way, soy sauce, miso, some of the soy condiments, they're okay, but they do not have nearly as high a level of these flavonoids, these phytoestrogens, as the whole food.
So we're fine with soy.
Exactly, that's exactly. You're not missing much from the soy standpoint by using something like coconut aminos, especially and if you factor in the salt part.
Right.
Probably better.
That is actually good news.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay, so I've just added a little bit of sriracha, maple syrup, and our coconut aminos. You could add in some ginger if you wanted to, garlic. It doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. Now
You put some garlic in?
no. I'm just gonna add a little bit of water, just to add a little bit of bulk here, but not too much because I don't want it to lose the flavors. Then you just add your tofu right into the bag. And this is so great because by putting it into a bag and then just get all of the sides well coated. It's hard to do this in a pan, but you can do it in a bag. Right? And then we're going to seal it up and do your best to get as much of that air out of there as you can. And then what I would do now is just place this in the refrigerator. I like to marinate for at least 24 hours, really to make everything just super, super flavorful. And then every time you open up the fridge, just give it a toss.
Because that tofu is almost like a sponge. I mean, the reason it tastes like sponge and cardboard.
Right. Yeah.
But it's because it's so porous, right? So the longer you marinate it, the more it's going to soak up those flavors, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
So, and it's, it's nice if you just do one whole block of tofu or maybe even 2 blocks depending on the size of your family.